Hello, I am the Story Girl, and welcome to the story of Jorinda and Jorindel. Once there was a wicked, cruel witch. You might be thinking, what other kind of witches are there? But witches are sometimes good and sometimes evil. All that being a witch really means is that you use magic, the magic of nature and the magic of the earth. And this particular witch used her magic to put suffering into the heart of every person who came near her castle. How did she do that? If you were a man, young or old, she had the power to freeze you as still as a statue for as long as she wanted. If you were a woman, she had the power to transform you into a bird, which she would then capture and take away into her castle. No other person but her had ever entered her castle. No one knew what she did with all those women who had been turned into birds, but there were rumors that she was particularly fond of bird pie, and these poor innocent women were all made to feed her belly. The people of the village hired a magician to stop her in her wicked ways, but couldn't stop her all the way. He wasn't strong enough. The thing that he was able to do, though, was make it so that during the day she couldn't take the shape of a powerful witch. Instead, during the day, she could only be seen as a wicked owl, sitting atop her castle battlements watching to see if anybody, man or woman, trespassed on her property. As soon as the sun sank below the mountains, she would transform back into a witch, and anybody who was still near her castle would be frozen or transformed. Well, this has been going on for many years, and the witch had become to be more of a legend than something people really feared. There was two young people, a young girl named Jorinda and the boy that she loved named Jorindel. Well, they weren't from that village. They just happened to be walking through the countryside. But they did see a very strange castle in the distance. I've heard of that castle, said the young man, Jorindel. That's the castle where the owl witch lives. The owl witch, said Jorinda, not thinking much of it. Yes, she can transform anybody she wants into a bird. Oh, surely not, said Jorinda, and she began to skip closer to the castle. Well, Jorindel rushed to try to usher her away from this castle when the sun sank below the horizon, and a wicked owl flew down from the castle towers, and Jorindel couldn't move. All he could do was watch as the owl transformed into the witch and his love, Jorinda, transformed into a beautiful, delicate nightingale that would just sing its nightingale song. Well, the witch captured this little bird and then went right up to Jorindel and said, "She's yours no longer, little boy. I'll be back for you." And the witch took the bird, the nightingale, which was Jorinda, into her castle. Jorindel couldn't move. He couldn't do anything but watch and wait. Finally, the old witch returned. She snapped her fingers, and Jorindel was able to move. "She's mine now, little boy. Off you go. You'll never see her again," said the wicked old witch. Jorindel pleaded upon his knees. He offered all of his worldly possessions, even that he would become the witch's servant. But the witch just cackled and shooed him away. Jorindel didn't want to leave his love, but he had no choice. He went and got a job herding sheep in the village nearby, and every day he would herd the sheep as close as he dared to the witch's castle and tried to get a peek over the wall, but he could never see any part of the interior of the castle. And then he would herd the sheep back to the village and fall asleep, restless, lonely, and sad. One night, Jorindel had a dream in which he entered a dark and dank forest, a jungle, a place he had never seen before, and as he stepped into a particularly dark part of the jungle, he saw a beautiful purple flower growing up, and in the center of this flower was a shining pearl. The pearl shined so brightly that it illuminated everything around it. Jorindel woke up and saw that he had just been dreaming, but he had an idea that his dream meant something. So he got his things together and journeyed off into the world. He journeyed far and wide. He journeyed for a year and a day till he came to that very same jungle. And he walked into the very darkest part where he saw a beautiful purple flower with a dewdrop in the center that looked just like a glowing pearl. Very carefully he plucked this flower up and, as if it were his most treasured possession, held it close as he journeyed back to the village that was near the castle where the witch lived. He arrived back late at night and, not wanting to spare a single moment, went with his purple flower right up to the gates and tapped the gates with his flower. The iron gates crumbled and spoofed into powder. Jorindel, who was boldened by this, walked into the castle and saw that it was filled with cages. Cages upon cages. Every room was full of cages, and inside of each cage there was a bird. He went deeper and deeper into the castle until he found the centermost room. In the center of this centermost room sat the witch, sitting in her chair with her eyes closed, and all around her was the most beautiful cages, full of the most beautiful songbirds. And there was nightingales, not just one, but many. Jorindel stomped right in and looked around at all the nightingales. The witch perked up her eyes and looked and saw Jorindel had that purple flower, and she knew its power, so she couldn't come near him, but she stamped her feet in rage. Get out of my castle, she said. But Jorindel didn't take a bit of notice. He searched, he looked at every single nightingale, but couldn't tell which one was his Jorinda, till he noticed that the witch had picked up a very particular cage and was trying to tiptoe away with it. Well, he walked right up to her and tapped that cage with his flower, and the cage and the nightingale inside transformed into his love, Jorinda. Well, the witch was so angry that she crumbled to dust. Jorinda and Jorindel embraced each other and spent the next several hours tapping every single cage with the flower, and every single bird transformed into a woman who had been captured by the evil witch. They all went home to their families and friends, and Jorinda and Jorindel were never parted again. The end. I am the Story Girl, and I've always passed over this story a bit whenever I was reading it, on account of the names of the main characters are so similar. if you see them in writing, like you would have at the beginning of this film, you'd see that it looked like they both say Jorinda and Jorind. You have to look very carefully at the letters to make sure that you're saying it right. And so I was always sort of passed by. But I did want to tell this story for our heart-shaped month of February because the main character, Jorindel, is in love with a woman who gets transformed into a bird. And he's willing to travel a year and a day to find a flower that he saw in a dream that might not even work to help her. But he was willing to do anything he could to help her. What are you willing to do for the people that you love most? Think about it. Remember, you are the main character of your story. Thank you for joining the story today. Bye!